So with this, if you want, you can also take that red line, and if you were just to get rid of it, actually, and move it somewhere else, it changes the entire design. I mean, the feeling of your design. So let me add that black line back in. We'll pull the red, and we will add that really high up. It's a completely different feeling. We haven't even added in any of the details: mustache, wrinkles, the nose, the chin, all of that. The muscles on the arms, pants. It's all just shape right now. And because shape gives an impression. So that's what we're going to be focusing on. Now, if I were to get rid of that line and we put that other line back in really quickly, now let's just say, there it is, because we're using that underlying drawing. If you wanted to mess around and just push that line around in different places just so you can see what kind of feelings you get, because that's what these drawings are all about. Character design, right? It's not just about design, it's about character, and that's a feeling. You want your audience to feel something aside from just looking cool. I mean, that's great, and that's why I'm going to be teaching you all these things. So hopefully you can find something that looks cool, but feeling, that's something that you have to feel yourself. All right, so this is how you break it down. Now, turn off that bottom layer, and by using the same ideas for shapes, we are now going to expand on this, and we'll come up with just a couple different ideas so you can see how I am doing it. Now, we're not drawing a skinny character. We're not drawing a fat character. We're not drawing some superhero type character. It's a combination of the fat and buff, but he's strong. We want to keep that. So he has a neck. It's not being lost somewhere. Now, let's just say maybe he has a bigger chin. We can still keep that line here for the eyes. He has the cranium, and then he has that jawline still here. We're just following these lines. You're trying to build, I don't want to say habits, but you're trying to understand why these things are working. Because the normal head, how it's drawn, is, at least most academy ways of teaching this is you draw a circle, you draw the center line, eye line, and then you connect the jaw onto that circle. And over here, there's like a side plane. It's essentially the same thing. I'm trying to break things up even simpler by going into the soft cube. The reason why is because it gives you a front plane, a side plane, top, bottom, whatever, back, whatever you need. But you can draw any type of shape you want. As long as you keep that soft cube in mind, you can go all over the place. So with this head, that head is very different than your normal academic looking head or what we usually draw when we're trying to, design generic looking characters. This isn't that. We're trying to expand on that so you can have a little more fun if you need to come up with something that specifically fits your story. This is that. So maybe his neck is even thicker. Now, here's where we are going to be focusing on the big shape overall, the body. And you can do all kinds of different things here. I'm going to open up another layer just to show you that even with this head and neck, we can expand and play around with this. Now, personally, what I do is I turn off my layers when I draw, and I go with my gut feeling to come up with something new every time. That takes time. How I learned was I would find a drawing I liked, like this, and then I would work right over it and just push and pull. Like I was like, okay, cool. I like that pose. I'm going to expand on this and make something new, and I'm going to keep that same pose. Or you know what? I'm going to expand on it and push it further. And instead, I'm going to draw the arms both holding the list, or I'm going to put them on the side of their, of his hips or whatever it might be. Or both arms are behind his back, like now it's just, I have a place, a guide right here. And still, we're not focusing on the details. We're looking at the big shapes. So let's say instead we want to pull his shoulders way out. And, maybe it tapers back in somewhere right here where his pelvis originally is at the bottom. Maybe. But look, already, just by having wider shoulders like that, you start to get a different feeling. Now, he has little legs on the one underneath, but what if we made those legs bigger triangles? What if that pelvis line here, and we'll use red, is a little higher? And if we want, we can do whatever we want with the arms now. I mean, we have this side plane here. Just keep that in mind. We have this center line. The arms we can do all kinds of things with now, because by changing the arms and having them do different things, it can give a different sense of your design as well. Just a little trick. So let's say instead of him holding the list with one hand, his arms behind his back, we can have, both hands behind his back like this, and we're using simple shapes for the arms. I'm thinking the same idea. It's like maybe there's like this straight and a curve here and his hands like there, and we'll just draw a little circle. Maybe he has tiny hands, but we're looking at overall the big shape, not all the little fingers. We're not worried about that right now. Big shapes. So like I said, in that middle joint where things split, it can bend. So that's where that is happening. And let's just say, I don't like that. I can lighten it. And let's just say I want to make those arms longer. I now see where that joint is, and maybe his arms drop like this. I want to make sure this is almost lined up, but since this arm is back in space because we're working on a 3/4, it might be a little higher. Now we got the arms dropped. You can do all kinds of things though with the arms. At least once you have your base here set up, you can now start to play. So we can have, I like to draw in stick figure form a lot, and then I build my shapes on top of it just so I don't waste time. So like what I would do is I would even draw like a line like that, and I might draw a simple line like that, like just, maybe a circle, just so I can kind of get an idea. And then I might draw like a really rough, loose shape like this, just so I can see if it's working. Like, oh, okay. His arms, they feel like, no, maybe. So if I lighten those, they're feeling a little too thin on this character. Maybe they're bigger, or there's a bigger taper here on the bottom part, that bottom shape instead of the top shape. So his arms are really like this, like huge on top, right? From here to here. And then they're very tight and tiny here. And that's the shape. It's just bending right here in the middle. We have our little hand. So we can always copy that shape over here. Maybe we don't see that hand because it's over here on the side somewhere, but because they're drawn in 3/4, we might not see that hand. Now, there's a lot of different things you can do with those arms. That's completely up to you, but the big thing is we want to focus on this huge overall shape. So we have this one here, and let's just say we wanted to expand on that further. So what if we use the same head, same neck, or we could even change that. We can even go in here and we can take this one that's here before, and maybe we want the cranium, tinier, and maybe he has like a long neck, and maybe he has this really big chin like that, and maybe his neck is even wider. I have no idea. That's the thing. You might find things that work. You might find things that don't work. This is all just experimentation. You're having fun. That's the biggest thing here. So does that head work better than this one? I don't know. But they're very different feelings. That's the thing. A combination of shapes are naturally going to give you a different feeling.